Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Sally Nugent and Dan Walker.
Our headlines for you today. Booster jabs will be offered to everyone over the age of 18 as part of a push to limit the spread of the Omicron variant of coronavirus.
And from today, face masks are mandatory once again in England on public transport and in shops. What does it mean for transport providers, for retailers, for travel agents? We'll be speaking to some of them live in Liverpool.
Longer sentences for child abusers in England and Wales as Tony's Law becomes a reality.
His inspiration every day. He never complains, he carries on no matter what's thrown at him. All the challenges, he just gets himself back up and carries on.
Prince Charles joins the celebrations as Barbados officially becomes the world's newest republic.
Good morning in sport. Messi dazzles in Paris after being voted the best player in the world for a record 7th time, collecting the prestigious men's Ballon d'Or award.
Good morning. This morning it's considerably milder than it was this time yesterday. For many of us it's going to be cloudy. There's some patchy light rain and drizzle. That will be replaced by heavier rain and strengthening winds coming in from the west later. I'll have all the details throughout the programme this morning.
It's Tuesday the 30th of November and new rules aimed at limiting the spread of the Omicron variant of coronavirus have come into force, affecting shoppers and public transport users in England as well as people arriving into the UK.
The Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, has insisted the measures are proportionate and will help families enjoy Christmas together.
Ministers have also agreed to extend and to accelerate the rollout of booster jabs, making them available to everyone aged 18 and over 3 months after a second vaccine. Here's more from our health correspondent Dominic Hughes.
From this morning, face coverings are now compulsory in shops and on public transport in England. Face coverings are already needed for most public places in transport in Wales. Masks are also required in pubs and restaurants in Scotland and Northern Ireland. But there is some concern over how shoppers in England will cope with the return of face coverings.
The vast majority of the public, when it was required to wear face coverings, were very good about it and still are in Scotland and Wales, where the regulations were never removed. But there is definitely a minority of people who seem to think that the rules shouldn't apply to them, and they are causing problems in stores. We've seen the levels of violence that shop workers face more than double during the pandemic.
There are changes in schools too, where staff and pupils in Year 7 and above are also being advised to wear masks in communal areas. In Scotland, that rule applies in class as well. And international travellers coming to the UK now also need to take a PCR test within 2 days of their arrival and self-isolate until they get a negative result. But perhaps the biggest changes are the modifications to the booster programme, slashing the gap between second jab and booster from 6 months to 3 and opening up boosters to all those over 18. Vaccines and boosters remain the prime defence against the virus.
It is also pretty clear that if you vaccinate, you're going to be in a better position than if you have not been vaccinated. So it's still a good idea to get vaccinated, and the booster dose will boost the immune response to such a high level that we would hope they would overcome any inherent ability of this new variant to escape vaccine-induced immunity.
It's clear UK cases linked to the Omicron variant are on the rise. The big unanswered questions remain: what impact the variant will have on illness, vaccines and transmission. Dominic Hughes, BBC News.
Well, coming up on Breakfast, we're going to be speaking to Professor Adam Finn from the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation. That's just after 7 o'clock this morning. Got lots of guests coming up on that and plenty of information for you today. If you're asking some of those questions that might have arisen in the last 24 hours or so about how you go about getting a booster, who you ring, what you should do if you're in a vulnerable situation and you haven't had that third jab yet. So we'll try and answer as many of those questions as we can over the course of the programme.
Well, in other news yesterday, the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer reshuffled his shadow cabinet with a big promotion for Yvette Cooper to shadow Home Secretary amongst the changes.
Some Labour MPs believe there are growing divisions between him and the Deputy Leader, who was on this programme yesterday, Angela Rayner.
Well, let's speak now to our Chief Political Correspondent, Adam Fleming. The timing of it all yesterday was really fascinating, wasn't it, Adam?
Yeah, it was a bit annoying for Angela Rayner, though, the Deputy Leader, because when she was doing interviews, like with this programme yesterday morning, she was asked about whether there was going to be a reshuffle. She said there wasn't. Then she left the TV studios, had a meeting with Keir Starmer to be told there was going to be a reshuffle, which then took place while she was doing a speech about something else and couldn't answer any questions about it. So either her big day was a little bit overshadowed, or she's being kept out of the loop, which means maybe Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner are not working that closely together. Whichever one it is, that is a bit of an issue for the Labour Party. But this morning, the new shadow cabinet is going to be meeting, and I think Keir Starmer will be focusing on the good things to come out of this reshuffle as he sees it. The fact that he's got the right people in the right jobs. There's a mixture of experience, people who are good communicators and good at politics, and also some young, up-and-coming, fresher faces from a newer generation as well. And so the big question is, in the long term, does this new shadow cabinet make more of an impact than previous shadow cabinets? And does that little bit of discomfort between the leader and the deputy leader turn into something bigger, or is it something that the party can live with?
Adam, thanks very much indeed. That's Adam Fleming in Westminster for us this morning.
Elsewhere this morning, Barbados has become the world's newest republic, and in doing that, they've removed the Queen as the head of state.
Prince Charles attended the ceremony, which saw Sandra Mason sworn in as the country's first president just after midnight local time. Daniela Ralph reports from the Barbadian capital, Bridgetown.
The world's newest republic, and a show of national pride. This constitutional shift in Barbados is about asserting self-confidence and shedding the links to its colonial past. Some of this country's most well-known names were among the VIP guests attending the transition ceremony. And also here to watch it all play out, the Prince of Wales. Invited to see his mother removed as a head of state, the first time that has happened anywhere in 30 years. For the final time on this Caribbean island, he viewed a military march past and took the final salute. And then the symbolic moment of transition. As the royal standard was lowered over Barbados, it became a republic. It's hard to imagine that this event wasn't tinged with some sadness for the Prince of Wales. He has focused on the enduring friendship between two nations and also spoken directly about the pain of a shared history.
From the darkest days of our past and the appalling atrocity of slavery, which forever stains our history, the people of this island forged their path with extraordinary fortitude. Emancipation, self-government and independence were your waypoints. Freedom, justice and self-determination have been your guides.
An acknowledgement of the past as this island looked forward and swore in its first ever president.
I, Sandra Prunella Mason, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Barbados according to law, so help me God.
Casting aside the official link to the British monarchy, Barbados is increasingly looking east to China for financial support. There are Republican rumblings too in other Caribbean nations. They will be watching this newest republic closely. Daniela Ralph, BBC News, Bridgetown, Barbados.
Well, our correspondent Celestina Ololode is in Bridgetown for us. Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. Tell us a bit about last night. Did it feel like the beginning of a new chapter?
Well, most certainly, because as you heard there, this country, this nation has its first ever president, Dame Sandra Mason. She is now the head of state of this country. And so, yes, it does certainly feel like a new chapter. A few other things that will change is that this country will introduce a new honours system that will replace the British honours system. And then also the name of the police will change as well. The police will now be called the Barbados Police Service. So yes, all these things are changing as this country enters into a new chapter of its history.
Celestina, thank you very much. Good to talk to you.
Now, the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell has started in New York, with the prosecution saying the former girlfriend of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein preyed on vulnerable young girls, manipulated them and served them up to be sexually abused. Maxwell, who is 59, faces 8 charges of sex trafficking and other offences. She's pleaded not guilty, and her defence say she's being made a scapegoat for Epstein's crimes. The disgraced financier took his own life when he was in jail in 2019.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.